It's cold and it's blustery and it's kind of spitty, spotty, drizzly rain out there tonight in Dublin in Ireland. And wasn't always like that. It was kind of bright this morning. A little bit early tonight, but I said I'd show up. You see, my wife's away on business, and my eldest daughter tagged along with her. So my other daughter's due home from college, and I'm looking forward to Chinese meal, which I shouldn't really have in my condition, and a couple of glasses of red. When the cat's away, the mouse is going to play. Or the big fat pig is, anyway. Oh, by the way, just a little bit about me. I'm Mark Manning. Somebody has to be. Generally, I make my living in voiceover, so I do quite a lot of voiceovers. However, I have been an author myself. I suppose I continue to be on and off erstwhile. And if you want to check me out, book-wise, I have the first 4 chapters of my novel, which I wrote, 6-7 years ago, called The Man Who Chased Joggers. You might check it out there on YouTube. The first 4 chapters are there. And then if you want to give me some feedback on it, I might put the whole thing up. It is, of course, available on Amazon, as is Charlie Butterstain's, my child's book. And I had poetry as well, but I don't think I ever put that up. It's there. It is there. Poetry and short stories. It's called A Man with an Irish Accent. So there you go. Anyway, look, that's the advertisement over. Or advertisement, as you say in the States. We're on to chapter 6 of this book, which is called Ideas Have Legs, and doesn't have much of a dust cover on it. But then again, this thing is nearly 80 years old, this copy. Chapter 6, I Spy Strangers. In my early Fleet Street days, I learned the story of the first parliamentary gossip columnist. He got a scoop which has made history. He was a junior official of the House of Commons. He was on duty on January 4th, 1642. That is the last occasion a British king entered the chamber of the House of Commons. On that day, Charles I came down with an armed guard to arrest 5 members of Parliament who had offended him. The junior official had been forbidden to write about anything which went on in Parliament, but he kept under cover and took a shorthand note of all that was said on that memorable occasion. So, we have the story. King Charles strode in. He demanded to be told where the 5 members were. Nobody answered. Actually, the 5 members had been tipped off by a lady. They had escaped in a boat across the Thames a few moments before the king arrived in Westminster. Charles then addressed Lenthall, the Speaker, and ordered him to hand the culprits over. Lenthall went on his knees, but refused to give any information, saying that he had neither eyes nor ears nor mouth, save with the permission of the House of Commons. So, at the risk of life itself, and indeed at the cost of much bloodshed, for the civil war followed quickly after these incidents, Parliament established the sovereignty of the people against kings, dictators, or anyone at all, inside or outside their ranks, who would exert tyranny. Excuse me. To this day, when the gentleman usher of the Black Rod arrives at the House of Commons, bidding them attend the King in the House of Lords, the door is slammed in his face. He has to knock 3 times before he is allowed to deliver his message. To this day, when a new speaker is elected, he has to be dragged forcibly to the chair and held there, relic of the days of men like Speaker Lenthall, when all were reluctant to assume an office which involved the risks of defying in the name of the people the most powerful men of the nation. To this day a carpet divides the 2 sides of the House of Commons, a carpet too wide for swords to meet across. Those who speak in Parliament must not step over the edge of the carpet, relic of the days when Parliament pioneered the democratic tradition of free speech coupled with good humour. What warmth and colour and majesty are woven into the story of Parliament. Here Burke pleaded gloriously, but in vain, for justice to the American colonists. Here Pitt, unmoved by crisis or catastrophe, held Britain to the task of saving herself by her exertions, and Europe by her example. Here Wilberforce fought his battle for the slaves against every obstruction of calumny, prejudice, and entrenched self-interest. No, I can't read without my glasses, much as I'd like to appear young on camera. Here Disraeli risked his career to plead for tolerance towards his own great race, the Jews. Here Gladstone offered moral and spiritual leadership to his age. And here, in more recent times, Churchill radiated a dauntless spirit of unconquerable resolve through the darkest stages of our journey. In the interwar years, I longed, like many young men, to get into Parliament, to take my place and play my part in that great pageant of the people. Apart from this, I thought it would be another step up the ladder of success, as well as offering another string to my journalistic bow. Also, I thought, I could do better than most of the folk who were inside there. In those days, my Tory convictions were much to the fore. When a vacancy offered in a certain parliamentary division, I put on my best coat and went to see the chairman. I told him I would like to be a candidate. He informed me I was just the sort of fellow they were looking for. Then he asked, "How much will you subscribe to the local association?" I answered that I did not wish to make money out of public life, but would give my parliamentary salary. He replied, "I am sorry, Mr. Howard. We have already been offered £1,000 a year. If you can't do better than that, I'm afraid it is out of the question." This was my first introduction to the power of money in the British democratic system. But I soon discovered that many good Tory seats were up for sale. On the Labour side also, a seat in Parliament was sometimes awarded, almost in the nature of an honourable pension and retirement, to those who had grown old in trade union service. Of course, if I had got into Parliament, I should have been out for a job in the government, and a title too, if it came my way. So I was not surprised to discover that many members of Parliament were out for those very things. During the First Great War against Germany, there was a fierce and close parliamentary division. The government, of which Lord Birkenhead was a member, just carried the day. In the lobby afterwards, one of Lord Birkenhead's political opponents observed to him bitterly, "You would have been beaten but for your paid members." By paid members, he meant all who had government jobs or enjoyed some form of patronage from the Crown. "Well," replied Birkenhead with urbanity, "we will give you all our paid members if you will give us all yours who wish to be paid." The picture is exact. Many members of Parliament were in there for motives of personal ambition of one kind or another, and I should have swelled their ranks. Parliament was rightly regarded by many as the sanest, soundest, and strongest form of government so far devised by man. After all, it has withstood the shock of the two greatest wars in human history. Sometimes in the interwar years, that assembly rose to great heights of dignity and effectiveness. When you scanned the ranks of the best type of parliamentarian, you saw what Parliament could and should be. For there were in Parliament many men of all parties who steadfastly and selflessly gave of their best, without fear or favour, in the public service. They came to Westminster with a single idea, the welfare of the nation. If all were like them, Parliament would become the mother of parliaments again, instead of watching the world turn away, country by country, from the democracy she pioneered. However, it is a sad quality of human nature that if a man enjoys a first-rate dinner, but has the soup spilt down his neck, this is the part he remembers. So it was that the bad motives and conduct of some legislators coloured the public impressions of the House of Commons. People became cynical, weary, and even contemptuous about politicians, and the whole institution of Parliament, although praised by many lips, kindled no fire in the hearts of millions. And this bad side of the penny was the one most constantly exploited and exposed by publicists like myself. Strange, but true, it is easier to be controversial than constructive. I kicked and cursed the politicians. I became bitter and black about them. Yet, looking back on those interwar years, I believe I had the Parliament I deserved, and that, by and large, the majority of the nation were given the politics they desired. Like many, millions of us, I was out for number one first. So were a number of MPs, and if Howard had been multiplied 615 times over, and so constituted a new House of Commons, I have an unpleasant feeling that few people would have noticed any major change in our legislature. As for policy, I and the rest of the nation wanted comfort about everything else. We wanted to be left alone. We wanted to build arms against the dictators, but not at any personal cost. We wanted all our rights, but forgot some of our duties. We wanted to stop Hitler, but not if it meant sacrificing our ease and wealth to do it. One feature of the life of our politicians and public men surprised me as I moved among them in the course of my newspaper duties, ever battering my way forward in the world. I had believed that all public men had to lead godly, righteous, and sober lives, as otherwise the public would cease to support and follow them. I found this was not so. It was an out-of-date theory. Many of our public men, some in positions of high responsibility, were unable to say no to a drink, a smoke, or a woman. Divorce and adultery were not uncommon in our public life. The discovery affected me. Ambition to get on in the world had acted as a restraint on some of my conduct. I would not do those things which I felt could damage my career. But when I found some of our national leaders doing as they pleased, and nobody caring much about it, I began to take a more lenient view of these matters for myself. I never perceived that leadership, which was drunk with alcohol, sex, money, or personal ambition, could offer no answer to the leaderships drunk with power, which were bidding to control the lives of millions in Europe and Asia. Indeed, both the parliamentarians who allowed themselves such latitude and publicists like me who criticised and copied them played into the hands of that leadership. We pandered to those who made it their business to hold up Parliament and its members to ridicule and contempt, knowing that Parliament, with all the faults of any human institution, is our one enduring bulwark against tyranny. Chapter 7 tomorrow night. If you would like to buy me a cup of coffee, in the description below you'll find my PayPal. And then again, buddy, if you can't spare a dime, that is perfectly fine. So, pucker up, cozy up, and have yourself a great day. Have yourself a great evening in whatever corner of the world I find you in. See you tomorrow night.